Well, today I'm joined by Andrew Reed, who's the Director of ABM at AVEVA. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem. Nice to be on, Declan.
Well, just full disclosure, rather, for the audience, AVEVA actually is a client at Strategic ABM at the agency, and we've worked together now for a number of years on kind of building your ABM muscle and delivering some great strategies together on that. So that's just one full disclosure for the audience. And equally, we did a piece, an ABM Heroes piece, a little while back that I'll share with people that they can read about Andrew and the kind of the origins of the ABM program at AVEVA. So just perhaps before we start, Andrew, AVEVA may not be a well-known name for a lot of people. Perhaps you could tell us something about the company that people don't know and just tell us something about what makes you different.
Yeah, so AVEVA is an industrial software company. We're a wholly owned subsidiary of Schneider Electric, a massive French conglomerate in the energy space. We're actually born out of Cambridge University. We're a spin-off from Cambridge University, a dissertation, I believe, in the 70s that then turned into a commercial project, that then into a commercial business. And we've been operating for many years, many acquisitions, but we're industrial software, over about 200 different products.
And how many people work for the company now?
It's about 6,500 people total, globally.
So sizable affair.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's. We're in 2025. Let's rewind back a couple of years. And if you remember, we delivered a joint presentation at the B2B Marketing ABM conference when you were pioneering your kind of one-to-one ABM program. And I think you were targeting or engaging with one of your customers, GSK, at the time. Perhaps you can share with the audience a little bit about that, those efforts, and a little bit about the results that you achieved at the time.
Yeah, so the program for us was, our North Star. We just come together as an ABM team about 6-7 months earlier, and we wanted to kick it off really with doing true one-to-one ABM, really going out there and trying something new. And we wanted to do that with an agency. That's where we came to Strategic ABM. And we wanted to follow a proper process, go through everything. And internally, first, we made sure we picked the right account. We wanted to focus on an account where we had the best chance of success. So we looked at all of our top tier accounts, at the time called global accounts, 45 accounts. And GSK seemed like the most applicable. It had the highest growth potential. It wasn't a huge account for us, but it had the biggest potential. GSK is a massive company. We had a lot of opportunity to make ABM work in that account. The objectives in the account was something ABM would actually have an impact on. And finally, the sales team in that account were really cooperative and wanting to engage with marketing and saw ABM as a great tool, essentially. So that's how we got GSK chosen out of the 45 accounts as a priority account. And then, we kicked off the process with Strategic ABM, did a huge amount of insights, a massive amount of insights, lots of interviewing, the CSM, the account manager, the sales director, multiple people within the account. There's a lot of other research happening as well on top of that. And then that's when value proposition was created. And this was, for me, was the biggest eye-opener for that program, as that's something we hadn't done before. Build a true value proposition. Rather than speaking about us first, we really tailored that value proposition to what GSK were trying to achieve and what we were trying to achieve in GSK. So it was really, really tailored value proposition. And from there, we built out a whole digital experience, really, to get that value proposition in front of key stakeholders within the account. We used a tagline of power players, and this was really to get visibility in front of the biggest players, essentially in the pharma industry, GSK, and sort of call them the most important people in that industry, and use that sort of compliment to get their attention and to cut through the noise, essentially. Instead of saying AVEVA's great in pharma, we talked about you're great, you guys are great in pharma, and we're here to be your a strategic partner to grow together, essentially. And I think that was really effective means of doing that. We built a microsite. We did a lot of direct advertising, very highly targeted advertising. We built custom content around, partnerships that made significant strides in the past. We did a huge amount of activity there and drove that awareness. And that was the key challenge, that the objective in the account was we'd only really been seen as one product there. And it wasn't AVEVA's product. We'd recently bought a company called OSI Pi, and that was a product in there. So they didn't actually know AVEVA because the product they were using was called something different. So there's a huge amount of engagement and awareness needed from the start. And that's what this campaign's objective was, is to get our awareness up and visibility, and then ultimately use that land and expand. Now that they know it's AVEVA, how can we get our wider portfolio in? And we did that through exec engagements and creating a huge amount of awareness.
Yeah, I mean, that's an awful lot to share with the audience, because as you said, there was so many elements to it. I want to pick up, Andrew, on just two things, if I may. One, obviously, you just mentioned that it was a real eye-opener, the value proposition. And I think, very often when we're talking to the market about value propositions, people may well say, well, we have one already. We have a brand value proposition. We're very happy with it. It's been signed off by everybody. Why do we need another value proposition, right? So how do you answer that question?
We had the same problem internally. The program, because of resources, we used agency and internal resources together. And that was one of the biggest challenges. The agency, you guys came up with such a great value proposition messaging, but it was like a salmon swimming upstream trying to get that implemented into our own brand team, because I had that same sort of thing. And I think it's just because it's a very new concept. It's a new concept to us as an ABM team, but then taking that to our internal brand team, essentially. So we just had to really build that sort of education and awareness and talk about it as though we're not breaking our own value proposition. We're just reframing what our customers see, and we're focusing on one customer. And don't worry, this is not going to be sent out to the masses. This is going to be sent to very, very focused individuals at a very focused account. And it is about speaking about those first. And what helped actually at the time, and the reason why we wanted to do this program to be very customer centric, is that our CEO created these new pillars, and customer centricity was about that. And he articulated about it's about talking about them first and understanding about them first, and then talking about us. So I think that helped my case. It wasn't like it was me against the world in that case. So yeah, it's a bit of education and a bit of just keep pushing, essentially.
No, it's a great way for people to hear what steps you have to take internally, the fact that there's going to be resistance, and that's normal, and how you can overcome that resistance. And I think the fact that your CEO was, from the top down, was saying that customer centricity was really important, I think actually helped your case as well. And just one more thing, you mentioned there that the use case there obviously was that AVEVA had acquired another company. With that company came GSK. They were buying one product from you. They weren't aware of the whole range that you offered. And so the ABM was a great use case there to change the brand perception, right?
Yeah, very much so. And the perception actually in the people that we did speak to was quite sort of not negative, but quite neutral. It wasn't sort of really bad or really good, essentially. So we wanted to improve our reputation with those to show us as more than just that one product.
Yeah. Now, if we fast forward to today, we're halfway through 2025. And you mentioned then we started with one single one-to-one ABM pilot. And now I believe you're running ABM across, is it 87 accounts globally?
Yeah, so we evolved as a company from having 45 global accounts, which were a dedicated global team, to now 87 what are now called enterprise accounts. And those are run in region, but still operated globally, essentially. And we don't do exactly what we did with GSK 87 times, just to clarify that. We don't have the time and resources, but we take a a sort of a light approach to that, and take the best parts of it and the bits that we can scale. Technology has improved significantly in the last couple of years with the vendors that we use. AI has enabled a lot since those, so that's how we're able to have some elements of what we do with GSK. I've done with GSK and use that as a sort of blueprint to scale to 87 accounts.
So I suppose just to add to that, in terms of the mindset, because obviously people often talk about ABM requiring a different mindset in a company, the mindset, the muscle, and the model that you're using. What do you think has, in those 24 months or so, what's changed internally to develop that muscle, that mindset, that model?
I think it's having always that vision to start with, knowing, having something that was achievable like GSK and going, well, this we can do, and then looking at it piece by piece and going, well, actually, this landing page, for example, what elements of this landing page could we do more and more times? And then we scaled it to 10 accounts, and we were actually, okay, now using technology, we can scale that to 20 accounts. So we just focused on bits at a time and didn't try to boil the ocean, let's say. We just picked bits, worked on those, continuous optimization on those bits, and done it over. So it has taken a couple of years to get to that point, and it's just by picking them off, like eating an elephant, whatever the analogy is. You just do it by bit and keep moving forward, really. But always with the vision of what you're trying to achieve for everything, the whole experience.
So maybe leading on from that, I think the way you refer to this program is one-to-one ABM at scale. And you mentioned then you can't deliver the same approach that you did with your kind of white glove one-to-one approach with GSK. So how do you ensure that for those accounts, those important global accounts, because I think the kind of profile of each one is a very large company, huge potential customer, etc. How do you ensure that it feels personalized and not perhaps programmatic?
Well, first of all, for those 87 accounts, we don't do true one-to-one to all of them. We actually break them down into 20 priority accounts, and then the remainder are core accounts. So we have that sort of one-to-one at scale across all 87. But then we operate a sort of that two-tier model to really prioritize and to get closer to that kind of GSK experience as such. So that's what we do for the top 20 accounts, and we go deep dive into it. But the core accounts, which is the remainder of the 67 accounts, is kind of programmatic. It's quite superficial in the personalization, but it achieves at least a similar amount of personalization, those kind of things. But those 20 accounts that we have a dedicated team working on, 4 or 5 accounts per person each, that's where we have that really personalized experience. So yeah, we don't have that true 87 accounts, so it is programmatic probably across a lot of them, but those 20 accounts we do have a lot more focused approach.
Is that because there's something when we were chatting before this recording, you said to me that you were moving from a digital first approach to a human first experience. Does that talk to those top 20 in terms of how you deliver that account experience?
Not necessarily. I think that approach is, over the last couple of years, we've sort of stuck to digital because it's a lot easier to scale. It's a lot more cost effective. We as a team have come from backgrounds with a lot more digital experience. We're in the digital marketing team as well. So we have access to all the tools as such. But now we've kind of hit that base level. Not that we've saturated the digital experiences. I'm sure there's a lot more improvements we could have done. We're realizing now that we need to look at it more well-rounded, essentially. So we're looking at this from firstly leveraging our big important events that come up, and that could be across all 87 accounts. We've got a major event coming up in Milan in May next year, and we're looking at how do we engage those accounts pre, during, and post the event, rather than just invite them and hope for the best. So that's what we're doing as a bit of a pilot for this coming year. So that that will be targeting all 87. We'll probably prioritize like we do with those 20, but it doesn't mean that we'll probably have a similar approach, a two-tier model. It's still very much in the works at the moment, but that's something where we're trying to bring that all well-rounded experience from digital to in-person, essentially.
So you're basically working on an event 9 months in the future.
Yes, yeah, and they're already planning it at the moment. So we thought, we're making sure that we are essentially following the timescale of the events team. We've thought about this in the past, and we've always been a little too late. So now we're getting well ahead of the curve and getting in that, because it does take a huge amount. It's about 5,000 people attend this event. It's a massive, for us, it's a massive event.
Absolutely. And perhaps on that point, you mentioned always that one of the most difficult things for AVEVA is kind of cross-selling, because obviously your buying groups are decentralized. They're enormous Fortune 500 companies, whether in the pharma space, in the retail space, oil and gas space. So how are you using ABM perhaps to crack that complexity?
I don't think we crack it, in all honesty. I think that the core thing that we try to do with our ABM programs, because we've got so many, is focus on one or two things. And in that case, we look at a large corporate and we go to the account manager. Okay, if there's one thing you want to achieve in this account, what is that? And it might be cross-selling one product, or cross-selling or upselling a product or area, or C-suite engagement, or whatever. But we just focus on doing that one thing well. And that way we're not trying to learn about the entire British Petroleum, which is a massive conglomerate with multiple companies and stuff like that. We're looking at it and going, well, actually, within this subsidiary, we need to cross-sell into this area. So we focus heavily on doing that. We go deep and narrow in that case, and we look at the buying groups, the stakeholders, and we go down really focus in that and try and achieve, the old analogy of using a spear rather than a net of ABM. We're going down that really true to form as in going really focused. So we've learned from the past that trying to do everything in one big account with very little resources and people behind it just achieves very little.
Yeah, and that's with that kind of question about, what's that one thing you want to achieve? That's you asking the account director who oversees the whole account. Is that correct?
Yeah. So each account has account manager, enterprise account manager, or account director who looks at 1 to 2 accounts. So they own that, and their boss calls them the drivers of the bus. Everybody in AVEVA can support the growth of that account. Like you could have regional salespeople in China selling into that account, but they own the strategy of that account, and everybody is supposed to be on the bus with them, supporting the growth of that account. And we, as the ABM team, are there supporting the growth as well.
Are you upstairs or downstairs?
I think we're just about hanging on at the back.
Yep, like when we were at school, everyone would always run upstairs to get the front. Remember, the front.
Yeah.
So okay, and let's talk about. We've talked a lot about digital. We talked a lot about the human experience. And you're a technology company, in terms of the industrial software that you design and deploy. Let's just talk about technology for a second in terms of how you deliver your ABM. I think I'm right in saying that you use PathFactory and Demandbase. Is that right? Are those two?
Yeah. Two from our tech stack. Yeah.
Two of your main pillars. Would you? Because obviously there's this whole argument about technology and the use and ABM, and many companies that we speak to kind of come to us and say, we've got a technology, but we don't know how to use it, or we haven't used it, or we're just sitting there gathering dust or whatever. Is it the case that you've really kind of put an awful lot of effort into those two technologies to make sure that they actually deliver what they're meant to deliver?
Well, let's talk about PathFactory first, because that isn't a technology the ABM team set out to use. That's being used by our digital and demand gen team for more nurture tracks, to try and get email nurtures, to try and get lead scoring and that kind of stuff. We just saw the opportunity internally of we're trying to achieve the GSK, create a landing page, and if we'd gone through our web team to do that, it would have taken lots of ticket requests and hours of work and days and stuff like that. And we saw PathFactory as a DIY option of creating content very quickly, very effectively, and we're 250 marketers. Everything takes time because of that. We've got all these systems and process. Having technology like PathFactory is you just do it yourself, and it's a small environment, WYSIWYG editor and stuff like that. You just do it yourself, and in the time we've been using PathFactory the last couple of years, they've advanced their technology, and we've been part of that and doing beta testing to take these sort of landing page experiences from being a very basic experience to then a templated experience. We were able to then clone those templates and scale them that way to more recently using the personalization sort of feature where you create one master version and then you can create 87 personalized versions of it, a bit like an email kind of in that kind of mail merge type format. So that's the journey with PathFactory, and that's been a huge enabler. But again, we always started with a vision, and then we just found tools around us that could help us achieve that vision. And then Demandbase has been probably a powerful tool in building relationships with sales, going to a sales manager and saying, hey, you said you wanted to achieve this. Well, we can actually see that there are people in the Nigerian office looking at this particular part of our portfolio, and Jill and Bob both have been viewing a webinar from this buying group, and this is something we can do something very targeted with, which is it's quite a powerful sort of tool to be able to get buy-in from sales and act on that together. Really.
So let's just carry on talking about technology, and just for the audience, Andrew, you're a very, very keen runner, I believe.
Yes.
And, we also talk about technology, and I think you're a bit of a technology geek in terms of your running technology. And I think Garmin, you've always got a great Garmin watch.
Yes, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I've got one. Here you go. I think my running days, I need to come back. I've got a Garmin here as well. But tell me, one thing you said to me, I think hopefully I'll get this right, but you were saying to me that I think you were comparing your ABM dashboard to the way that you'll use your Garmin running data from your watch or something. We had a conversation about Garmin and watches and data and ABM dashboards, that you were obviously obsessed about your running data and you were equally obsessed about the data coming out of your dashboards. What, from a measurement point of view, how do you go about it, and how do you talking to these customers, running campaigns into 87 accounts, trying to go back to the business and say, look, guys, this is what we've done, this is what we spent, this is the resources we've deployed, and here's what we're achieving. How do you kind of build that kind of dashboard, that Garmin dashboard, to kind of sell your story?
Well, first of all, I'm stealing a quote from one of my colleagues of not calling it a dashboard, but an action board, because it's not just about looking at data and going, yeah, well, that's great. A bit like my watch. My watch isn't just about telling me how great I did on a run. It's about using that data and saying you need to do less or you need to do more. It's about making actions from that. And that's a learning curve for us, because we wanted to create dashboards and stuff in the past, just saying how, all these pretty numbers and stuff like that. And the most important part, and that's what we try to build our dashboard, is, so what do we do with this? And that's where we've kind of done that. So a lot of our dashboard is around giving those insights into what I mentioned before, using the demand-based data, pulling in Marketo, PathFactory, all those things, and showing engagement, of pivoting our campaigns and making them more effective, or doing something very tactical to reach out to certain things. So that's what we use a dashboard for. But ultimately, what our business is looking for is growth. And that is in pipeline and close won business. So the main KPI we get targeted on is marketing contributed pipeline, marketing contributed business. So we always tell a story with our dashboard of how our building our reputation, our relationships, has turned into that revenue. The 3 R's model, we use that a lot. That's always good sort of storytelling. You work back from the revenue, saying, this revenue has been created and all these marketing touch points. So the dashboard has really two uses. One, to show how we've achieved that revenue through all the marketing activity, and also the insights into looking proactively at how do we increase that revenue, essentially, through all the insights and pivoting or optimizing campaigns to be more effective.
Which one's more accurate, your Garmin watch or your ABM action board?
I'm not sure. Sometimes my watch tells me I'm doing too little, and I'm like, well, I've just been on a blooming run about 10 minutes ago, so I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, sometimes I think my watch is in control of me rather than me in control of it. So I
Yeah,
prefer my own dashboard, ABM dashboard. I forget
your
like
ABM
that.
dashboard.
Yeah.
I think it's great. That thing you just mentioned there, Andrew, about the so what with the data is it's not necessarily what the data is telling you; it's the so what afterwards. Is that question about, well, so so what's the next step? What's the next action? What's the next thing we should do? I think that's a really good aid memoir for the audience to hear that. And I think the fact that you mentioned about working backwards from revenue to try to work out the impact, I think is great as well. So I think you're onto a lot of great points there. Let's talk about one thing about support. And people often say, ABM will fail if you don't have support from your colleagues, from your sales team, from the C-suite. 2025, you've been doing this now for, is it 2 years or 3 years now, ABM?
About 3 years.
3 years now. So you're 3 years into your ABM journey, which is, for many people is significant. Where do you think the business looks at ABM now, and what's the wider conversation perhaps in the business outside of your group? What do they say about the work that you and your team are doing? How do they look at it?
Well, I think for a start, it's around our most important accounts. That's what we focus all of our attention on. So we've got proven use cases of our enterprise accounts and growing those and contributing to that. So it's pretty much a given that the ABM team is supporting that. We also act as a center of excellence to try and take the use cases and the examples of what we're doing for our enterprise accounts and trying to help our regional teams in growing that. And that's where I think the business is seeing more and more value, is how do we scale what we're doing in our top accounts and take that down the next level to our sort of growth strategic accounts, which are in our regions, and enable that. So I think that's the next step really in the evolution of ABM, is how do we bring ABM or account based as more of a concept to the wider marketing team essentially. And there's been lots of false starts and trials and stuff like that, but I think that's where the growth really lies at AVEVA at least.
And perhaps linked to that, I think you said to me that ABM, when you kind of started bringing it together, was a disparate set of tactics, and then that now it's a systematic go-to-market motion. What do you think, perhaps, was for the audience? What do you think was the turning point for you? And perhaps what's that one piece of advice for people who are kind of in that kind of ABM pilot, trying to ramp up and scale, for them to start making it a systematic go-to-market motion?
I think initially, like a lot of companies sometimes, is I think somebody somewhere thought ABM was a good idea and let's create some ABMs without any real sort of direction or strategy. And that's what happened pre myself joining. So there wasn't a huge amount of sort of cohesion because there wasn't a team per se. There was just individuals doing ABM. And then the business decided, well, we need to actually have some sort of leadership and strategy. And then that's where I came in and a couple of other people sort of put together. So that's where we sort of started from a point of, well, actually, we need to build a process, a systematic process of doing that. And that's where the journey started with GSK, essentially. So we're a team of 5 in total. We operate globally, but our main focus is, again, enterprise accounts, 87 enterprise accounts, and acting then as a center of excellence. But yeah, from that point of where we were together, we've got stronger and stronger, and trial and error. We always try new things, always develop, optimize things, and then optimize and scale. Optimize and scale is the kind of methodology we've been building over the last couple of years.
Which kind of reflects a little bit the kind of business that you're in terms of industrial software, that kind of methodology of approaching a problem, probably, I think, right?
Yeah, for sure. Very much so.
Yeah. So 2025, let's just fast forward 12 months to the middle of 2026. Where do you want to be with your ABM program in 12 months' time?
I think going to that sort of in person, I'd like to be able to see, at the moment we're almost doing a pilot again, back to the start. We're doing a pilot with a digital experience. Now we're doing a bit of a pilot with that in-person experience. And the challenges I foresee is we were in full control as an ABM team in the digital experience. And now we're involving the events team, we're involving the exec engagements team, and there's a lot more moving parts and a lot more people involved as such. So that's, for me, what I want to see success in 12 months' time is that coming together, giving that full rich experience, that white glove experience you mentioned before, to our top accounts so that we can grow them, not just through a digital experience, but through a digital and in-person experience. So it's that consistent experience saying that they are our most valued customers, we're a strategic partner to them, and that comes through both the digital and in-person.
Yeah, and obviously in 12 months' time, you'll have finished. You'll have be sitting down with a glass of Campari. You'll have finished the Milan show. You'll have done the event in Milan, and you'll be having all the feedback, and you'll be having the great results from that as well. So good luck with that. How that next 9 months preparing for that event. So just to finish off, I ask all guests four very quick questions. So quick question, quick answer. What has been your greatest ABM learning to date, Andrew?
I think about the value of a value proposition, really. I think that sort of creates the baseline or the point of which everything is more effective, essentially. Once you start thinking less about yourself as an organization and more about the customer and in putting yourself in their shoes, that is the biggest learning.
Great. I'd agree about the VP, and that's it's something we spend a lot of time talking to the market about and try to make people understand the value of it, so to speak. But it's great to hear that from you. What about the hardest part of ABM?
Getting things going. The challenge I found when I first started this is that I get asked by my boss after 3 months, okay, what you got running, and realize nothing because you have to do a huge amount of research and stuff like that, and trying to get buy-in from people the way they want things now and now. That's the challenge is the way up between investing a huge amount of time in the research and the planning, or doing things more agile and more quick. So yeah, that's the hardest part. Is balancing quick and dirty, as my boss used to say, and very intense and very well planned, and getting that balance right really is the challenge.
Yeah, you've just got to bring people along and make sure that they're aware of what the journey looks like, and that they don't have unrealistic expectations at the beginning, right? Misconception. What do you think is the greatest misconception about ABM?
It's just targeted advertising. That boils my blood, and I actually call it internally account-based targeting, just to dissociate the two things. Account-based targeting is a very effective means of getting an ad in front of somebody, but it's not account-based marketing, which is looking at research, all the steps that you do.
Yeah, excellent. Finally, we're actually recording this on a Friday morning for both of us. Fast forward to whatever time you're going to finish today, and you're just about to close that laptop, put on your Garmin watch and go for a run, and you get a phone call from an old colleague saying, "Hey, Andrew, I'm going to give a presentation on Monday morning to my CEO who wants us to start an ABM pilot." And they ask you, "What's that one thing I must include in the presentation?" What's that answer to that question?
It's a challenging one, really. I think the value of insight, really. I think that's the main thing, and using an example of it. I mentioned before about using sort of the demand base example of did you know X people are doing that? That's quite a powerful story to be able to say is we know this about our customers, and you guys don't even know this about your own customers. That kind of thing, and using something as powerful about individuals and what those individuals have been doing, be able to show exactly all the different points. And if we were to do X, we could get them to buy more, essentially. Really, those insights drill down into those people is such a powerful thing to be able to show somebody, and something real that people can get behind as well, not just sort of superficial numbers or such.
Yeah, a great answer, a great way to finish off. Andrew, thank you so much for sharing your ABM journey with us today. Wish you and the team there every success over the coming 12 months. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thanks, Declan.